Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into some truly profound territory. You brought us an extraordinary framework known as Lilien's philosophy, an audacious attempt, really, to unify philosophy, mathematics, and physics into one coherent understanding of reality.
It is, yeah. It's quite ambitious.
This isn't just about connecting dots, is it? It sounds more like revealing an entirely new canvas, maybe, upon which those dots are painted. We're going on a journey today through hyperdimensional insights, logical breakthroughs, and a radical reevaluation of reality itself. So get ready for some deeply thought-provoking moments.
It's definitely an ambitious undertaking, and like you said, it's not just another theoretical model. It represents a really comprehensive effort to derive the universal structure of reality almost from first principles.
From the ground up.
Pretty much. Our mission today, I think, is to unpack how this philosophy achieves such a grand synthesis. It draws from millennia of human thought, integrating it with cutting-edge concepts like hyperdimensional mathematics and these advanced logical frameworks. We'll explore how it proposes to understand the emergence of, well, everything we perceive. Dimensions, the flow of time, the fundamental forces governing the universe, and even the nature of consciousness itself.
Right.
And what you'll discover, I think, is how ancient wisdom doesn't just find a surprising resonance in new scientific ideas, but how, in Lilien's view, it's actually essential for their full realization.
Essential, not just compatible. Interesting. Okay, let's begin by setting the stage then. What exactly is Lilien's philosophy, at its heart, and what's the fundamental problem it's setting out to solve?
Well, at its core, Lilien's philosophy offers this profound synthesis. It's like a unified field theory, but not just for physics, it's almost for existence itself.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, imagine building a bridge, a really robust, intricate bridge between domains that we've treated as separate for centuries. Things like classical philosophy, modern hyperdimensional physics, and this entirely new mathematical framework called multilectic metalogic.
Multilectic metalogic. We'll need to unpack that one.
Definitely. And the grand problem it aims to resolve is this fragmentation in how we understand the universe. We've tended to silo physics, math, philosophy, put them in separate boxes.
Right. Different departments in the university.
Exactly. And Lilien's work argues that this fragmentation is, well, artificial, that there's a deeper underlying unity connecting them all. It's an attempt to show they're not just related fields, but really inseparable aspects of a single reality.
So unification is the name of the game then, bringing everything under one roof. Or maybe showing it is already under one roof, we just haven't seen it properly.
Precisely the latter, I think. Its core purpose is to provide this unified framework, but one that doesn't just, staple ideas together.
Right.
Instead, it aims to organically demonstrate how ancient philosophical insights aren't just compatible with modern science, but are actually essential for its full realization. It's about moving beyond just seeing disconnected phenomena and starting to perceive the universe as this deeply interwoven dynamic tapestry.
Like finally seeing the whole pattern in the rug, not just the individual threads.
Yeah. That's a great analogy, yeah.
And to achieve this unification, it introduces some pretty intriguing concepts. You mentioned them earlier. We'll hear a lot about hyperdimensional dynamics, coherence, resonance fields, asymmetry operators. Could you give us a quick sense of what these mean, just the basics for now?
Absolutely. And yeah, these aren't just new buzzwords. They're the fundamental tools, both conceptual and mathematical, that the philosophy uses to build its model of reality. So, hyperdimensional dynamics. That basically refers to the interactions happening in dimensions beyond our familiar 3 of space and 1 of time. It posits that reality is much richer, much more complex than what we usually perceive.
Okay, more dimensions than the usual 4.
Potentially many more, structured in a specific way. Then there's coherence. This is absolutely central. Think of it as a fundamental state of order, alignment, consistency within these fields.
Like things working together smoothly.
Exactly. Like a perfectly synchronized orchestra, everything in tune, playing together. That's coherence. It's the property that allows systems, from tiny quantum particles all the way up to galaxies, to maintain their integrity and interact meaningfully.
Got it. Coherence is order. What about resonance fields?
So if coherence is the state of order, resonance fields are the mediums through which these coherent interactions happen and amplify.
Ah, okay. Like how sound travels through air.
Sort of, yeah. Or like sympathetic vibrations, you pluck one string and another nearby vibrates at the same frequency if it's tuned right. These fields carry information and energy across this hyperdimensional landscape. They're the pathways for interaction.
Okay, coherence, resonance fields. And the last one, asymmetry operators. Sounds almost contradictory to coherent.
It seems that way, but it's crucial. Asymmetry operators are the mathematical tools that describe how perfect symmetry gets broken. In Lilien's view, the universe might start in a state of ultimate, undifferentiated hypersymmetry, pure potential.
Like a blank slate.
A perfect blank slate. But for anything specific to emerge particles, forces, even consciousness, that perfect symmetry has to be broken. Asymmetry operators are the mechanisms that allow this symmetry breaking to happen, leading to the diverse, complex reality we see.
So breaking the perfect symmetry is actually how things come into being.
Exactly. It's the creative act. So these concepts, hyperdimensional dynamics, coherence, resonance, asymmetry, they're the fundamental gears and levers of this model, explaining how reality emerges and evolves.
That paints a much clearer picture. It's also interesting, as you mentioned, that this isn't presented as just some sudden, out-of-the-blue idea. The work itself traces this deep intellectual lineage. It starts way back with ancient philosophers, moves through the Enlightenment, incorporates modern thinkers, and then synthesizes it all in this hyperdimensional context.
Yes, you've hit on a really crucial aspect. It doesn't just toss out history. It meticulously recontextualizes historical philosophical thought. It argues that the big questions and insights from philosophy, from ancient Greece to modern times, find new, deeper meaning and even mathematical description within this framework.
So it's suggesting that maybe these philosophers had intuitions about this deeper reality.
That seems to be the implication, that many profound insights of the past were glimpses of this unified reality that Lilien's philosophy is now trying to articulate more rigorously.
Okay, so this deep dive really starts by connecting Lilien's ideas to, well, a who's who of history's greatest thinkers, showing this grand intellectual lineage you mentioned. How does it build on their foundations? Especially when some seem so different from modern physics, you know?
It's genuinely fascinating how it reframes and extends these classical concepts. Instead of just rattling off names, let's maybe explore a few key figures and traditions to see how they get woven in. It really illustrates the synthetic power of this approach.
Sounds good. Where should we start? Ancient Greece.
Makes sense. Let's start right at the beginning, with Socrates and Plato, the original intellectual heavyweights.
Ah, yes. Socrates, with his relentless questioning, digging for deeper truths, that whole know thyself thing. And Plato, his student, with the ideal, forms this idea of a perfect, unchanging reality beyond our senses. How do they fit into a hyperdimensional framework?
Well, Socrates, he laid the groundwork for all critical inquiry, right? Questioning assumptions, pursuing deeper truths, especially through self-reflection. Lilien's philosophy really resonates with the constant questioning of our assumptions about reality itself.
Okay, the spirit of inquiry.
Exactly. And think about Socratic dialogue, the dynamic back and forth leading to new understanding. That finds a striking parallel in multilectic metalogic's dynamic interactions. Propositions aren't static. They interact, resonate, and produce emergent coherence. That aha moment in a Socratic discussion is kind of mirrored in the system achieving a higher coherence state.
Huh. Interesting parallel.
And the knowing oneself. That aligns deeply with the observer's role here, shaping reality through symmetry reduction and coherence interactions. It suggests our self-awareness isn't passive, it actively influences the universe.
So our questioning changes things.
In a fundamental way, yes. And then Plato, building on Socrates, proposed this ultimate reality of perfect, immutable forms beyond our material world. The ideal circle, perfect justice, and so on.
Right, the blueprints.
Lilien's philosophy extends this beautifully. It frames these forms not just as abstract ideas, but as coherent resonance loci within higher dimensional layers.
Coherent resonance loci. What are those exactly?
Think of them as specific, stable points or patterns of maximum coherence and resonance within these higher dimensions, like stable frequencies or attractor points. They're mathematically defined patterns that literally govern the emergence of space, time, and forces in our reality.
So the forms become mathematical structures in higher dimensions.
Precisely. It suggests our physical world isn't random, but a reflection, maybe a projection, of this higher, more fundamental reality encoded in hyperfractal structures and coherence fields. The Platonic forms become the hyperdimensional blueprints.
That's quite a reinterpretation, okay? After Plato comes his student Aristotle. Logic, natural science, cause and effect. Very systematic. How does that fit into a world of resonance and coherence, which sounds maybe less linear?
All right, Aristotle gave us that systematic empirical approach, observing the world, figuring out cause and effect. Lilien's philosophy integrates this legacy by extending Aristotelian reasoning into what it calls hyperdimensional causality.
Hyperdimensional causality.
Yeah, so Aristotle focused on linear cause and effect within our observable world. Lilien's framework, particularly multilectic metalogic, shows how resonance operators govern interactions across dimensions. It reveals a much richer, multi-layered web of influences.
So it's not just A causes B anymore.
It's more like A resonates with B within a field that also includes CD and influences from other dimensional layers, all contributing to the outcome. It doesn't reject cause and effect, but it sees it within a much broader, more complex context. It expands the empirical lens to include these deeper interactions. We're still systematic, just. The system is bigger and more interconnected.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Expanding the system. Now, this is an interesting jump in the lineage from Greece to ancient China with Confucian harmony. Confucianism emphasizes harmony, interconnectedness, balance. How does that resonate, pardon the pun, with a theory about physics and dimensions?
It's a beautiful example of the unifying power here, showing how certain core truths might emerge across cultures. Confucianism's focus on harmony and interconnectedness is mirrored directly in Lilien's central focus on coherence and resonance as the unifying forces.
So harmony isn't just a social ideal.
In this framework, it's fundamental to reality. It's reflected in the mathematical symmetry of the hyperfractal structures underpinning everything, and the dynamic interplay of those asymmetry resonance operators. That shows how balance isn't static, but a continuous process of maintaining coherence across dimensions.
Like constantly tuning an instrument.
Exactly. So for Lilien, harmony is literally a state of optimal coherence and resonance. It applies from the subatomic to the cosmic, and yes, profoundly, to human society too. It's a deep alignment of ancient Eastern wisdom and modern theoretical physics.
That's quite profound. Okay, moving forward in time. Augustine and Aquinas in the medieval period. They were deeply concerned with faith, reason, the nature of time, metaphysical truths. How do their theological and philosophical explorations fit in? Seems like a different world from physics.
It does, but there are fascinating parallels. Think about Augustine pondering the nature of time, how it's tied to memory, present experience, anticipation, not just a simple line. And Aquinas looking for evidence of an underlying order in the universe's design.
Right, natural theology.
Both find echoes in Lilien's integration of consciousness and hyperdimensionality. There's a concept in Lilien's work called the orchestrating operator.
Orchestrating operator.
Yeah, it represents this idea of an inherent universal intelligence guiding the universe's unfolding, harmonizing everything. It reflects Augustine's and Aquinas' sense of a fundamental underlying order that connects the physical structure with its deeper metaphysical origins. It's a way of seeing the universe's design as inherently ordered, maybe even purpose-driven, and intelligent, not just random stuff happening. It bridges that gap between a divinely ordered cosmos and a mathematically emergent one.
Bridging faith and reason in a new way. Okay, let's jump to the Enlightenment. Descartes, Locke, Hume, rationality, empiricism, skepticism, challenging tradition. This feels much closer to modern science, but maybe more skeptical of grand metaphysical claims.
Absolutely. The Enlightenment was revolutionary, emphasizing reason and empirical evidence. Lilien's philosophy honors that by rigorously incorporating empirical methods, but it also directly tackles the limitations of pure materialism, the idea that only matter is real by bringing in these hyperdimensional insights.
So how does it handle someone like Hume, who was famously skeptical about causality itself? He argued we never really see cause and effect, just things happening one after another.
That's a classic challenge. Hume's skepticism is profound. Lilien's multilectic metalogic offers a potential resolution. Instead of simple linear cause and effect, it proposes that coherence and resonance govern interactions multidimensionally. It gives a more comprehensive picture of how things are related not just sequentially, but through this complex web of resonating fields across dimensions.
So causality becomes a property of the whole system's resonance, not just A bumping into B.
Kind of, yeah. It provides a richer understanding of interconnectedness that addresses Hume's point without discarding the idea of influence altogether. It expands the empirical view to include these deeper, nonlinear dynamics.
Okay, and rounding out this historical tour, what about more modern thinkers? Hegel's dialectics, Wittgenstein's focus on language and reality.
They fit in remarkably well, too. Hegel's dialectic thesis, antithesis, synthesis, that dynamic process driving change. It resonates strongly with the interplay of symmetry and asymmetry in Lilien's framework. The constant tension and resolution between these opposites is what generates new levels of complexity and coherence.
Like symmetry is the thesis, asymmetry the antithesis, and the emergent reality is the synthesis.
That's a good way to think about it, yeah. And Wittgenstein's analysis of language, how language structures our reality, how its grammar shapes what we can even think, that parallels the use of mathematical language in multilectic metalogic. Here, coherence and resonance aren't just describing things, they act as the universal grammar of existence. They provide the fundamental rules by which reality unfolds.
So the math is the language of reality in a very deep sense here.
It seems so. And you can even see connections to figures like Carl Jung, his archetypes, the collective unconscious, these ideas of shared, universal patterns. Lilien's framework parallels this with coherent intelligence field.
Coherent intelligence field.
Yeah, posited as fundamental sources of these shared patterns. Those resonance loci we talked about could even be manifestations of archetypal coherence, linking individual minds to a collective consciousness through these underlying fields.
Wow. And Teilhard de Chardin, his idea of evolution moving towards an omega point of unified consciousness.
Also reflected in the big emergence framework, which we'll get to. It integrates physical, biological, and conscious systems, seeing them all evolving towards higher coherence. There's this concept of a universal intelligence field that acts like a harmonizing point, similar to Teilhard's omega point. It paints a picture of the universe itself evolving towards unity and awareness.
It's truly an incredible synthesis, weaving together so many threads from philosophy, psychology, even theology, with physics and math. It's not just a new idea, it feels like a culmination. Okay, this is where we dive into the really distinctive stuff. How does Lilien's philosophy take all these historical threads, these ancient intuitions, and weave them into something fundamentally new? Something that really redefines our picture of reality. Let's start with something many people might have heard of from cosmology, the anthropic principle. Usually it just means the universe seems fine-tuned for observers like us, but Lilien's philosophy takes this way, way further, right? It suggests observers aren't just lucky bystanders, but active participants, even creators. That sounds pretty wild.
It does sound wild, and it's a crucial transformative leap. The traditional anthropic principle just sort of marvels at the coincidences, how the physical constants seem perfectly set up for life.
Right, like if gravity were slightly different, stars wouldn't form, etc.
Exactly. Lilien's philosophy extends this dramatically. It says observers aren't passive recipients. They are intensely active agents. They participate in the emergence of reality by collapsing coherent quantum fields into observable phenomena.
Collapsing quantum fields.
Yeah.
Like in standard quantum mechanics.
Yes, but with a deeper implication. It connects to the idea that breaking symmetry introduces interdependence and complexity. Our very act of observation, our interaction, even our conscious inquiry, is seen as a creative act. It helps bring specific aspects of reality into being, turning possibilities within the coherence fields into actualities.
So we're not just discovering reality, we're helping make it.
That's the radical suggestion, yes. And furthermore, that fine-tuning, the precise constants and laws, it's not seen as just a lucky accident. It's understood as the direct result of these fundamental hyperdimensional coherence fields. They inherently give rise to these constants and laws. They embody the blueprint.
So the blueprint itself dictates the fine-tuning.
Yes. And observers, then, are interacting directly with these foundational fields, influencing how they manifest, which specific possibilities become real. It's not just that the universe is made for us, it's that we are integral to its ongoing unfolding.
Okay, that leads to this idea you mentioned earlier, a universal mandate for complexity. Like the universe isn't just accommodating, it actively wants to become more complex.
Exactly. Lilien's philosophy suggests the universe's capacity to evolve towards increasing complexity, consciousness, intelligence. This isn't just random drift. It's an intrinsic property of its hyperdimensional design.
Built in from the start.
Built in. Like a deep underlying tendency, a cosmic current pulling the universe towards greater organization and self-awareness. Complexity isn't an anomaly. It's the natural outcome of coherence seeking new ways to express itself.
Fascinating. Okay, let's talk about that design, the structure, hyperdimensional insights. You said dimensions aren't separate boxes, but fractal layers. What does that actually mean for space-time? And how does it deal with things like Einstein's curved space-time or string theory's curled-up dimensions?
Right, this is a radical shift from how we usually think about dimensions. Forget separate axes, X, Y, Z. Lilien's philosophy views them as interwoven layers within a hyperfractal structure.
Hyperfractal. Like those intricate mathematical patterns.
Exactly like that. Think of a Mandelbrot set, zoom in on any part, and you see patterns similar to the whole, but with unique details at that scale. Dimensions here are like that emergent properties of coherent resonance fields. Each dimension we perceive is a recursive scaling of the universal hyperfractal.
So our 3D space is one zoom level of this fractal.
Kind of, yeah. Coherence fields propagate in these self-similar patterns across layers, manifesting differently at different scales. And here's the crucial part for space-time. What we perceive as space-time curvature, gravity bending space and time, according to Einstein, is seen as an emergent property. It arises from the interaction between quantum fields and what Lilien calls hypergravity coherence.
Hypergravity coherent.
It's the underlying coherence field related to gravity's structure in the hyperdimensions. This view eliminates the need for those compactified dimensions you find in string theory, the ones supposedly curled up too small to see.
Ah, okay. So the extra dimensions aren't hidden away. They're the fractal layers themselves.
Precisely. They're inherent layered structures that are always present. Our familiar 3D space and 1D time are just one specific manifestation, one layer or resolution within this grander, infinitely layered hyperfractal structure, emerging based on the local coherence and resonance.
Okay, our reality is one layer of an infinite fractal. Mind-bending. Now, what about asymmetry? Why is breaking symmetry so important? It sounds like introducing imperfection.
It sounds counterintuitive, but asymmetry is the engine of creation here. It's what drives the emergence of everything observable from those otherwise perfectly uniform hypersymmetric states.
The blank slate again.
Exactly. If everything stayed perfectly symmetrical, perfectly uniform, nothing distinct could ever exist. No particles, no forces, no structures, no us. To get the rich, diverse reality we experience, that perfect symmetry must be broken.
And the asymmetry resonance operators do the breaking.
They're the mathematical tools that describe how this symmetry breaking happens across dimensions. It's through these operations that the universe allows specific things, particles, forces, fields, to form and differentiate themselves.
So asymmetry isn't a flaw. It's the creative spark.
Absolutely. It's the fundamental creative act that introduces distinctions, interdependence, and generates the conditions for complexity, time's arrow, space's structure, and crucially, for consciousness to emerge. It's how potential within the hypersymmetric whole becomes the actual specific reality we live in.
And speaking of consciousness, this philosophy says it's fundamental, not just a side effect of complex brains, an epiphenomenon. What does that really mean for us?
It's a profound shift from materialism. Lilien's philosophy states consciousness isn't just a byproduct of neurons firing. It's a fundamental aspect of the universe, woven into the cosmic fabric from the start.
How does it arise, then?
It arises from the interaction of coherence fields. These are the same fields that maintain the integrity of quantum systems across dimensions. So consciousness is deeply linked to the fundamental coherence of reality.
And that connects back to the observer collapsing quantum fields.
Exactly. The observer's role in quantum mechanics, making possibilities definite through observation, is seen here as consciousness directly interacting with hyperdimensional coherence. Your conscious interaction helps shape what becomes real. And it introduces this concept of the real now. It's not just a point on a timeline. It's our subjective experience of the present, defined as the intersection of coherence across multiple temporal axes. Our now is this rich, multidimensional moment where past coherence and future potentials meet, mediated by consciousness.
A multidimensional now.
Okay.
Okay. And similarly, intelligence isn't just a human thing either. It's a universal operator, a kind of cosmic orchestration. The universe itself is intelligent.
That's the idea. Intelligence, like consciousness, is seen as an intrinsic property of the universe, embedded in its structure, not something that just randomly popped up in brains.
So the orchestrating operator you mentioned before.
That reflects this inherent intelligence, a guiding principle harmonizing coherence and resonance across dimensions. It suggests an underlying order and perhaps purpose that's intelligently unfolding.
Guiding evolution, maybe.
Yes. Biological evolution, in this view, isn't just random mutation and selection. It's driven by the universe's inherent tendency toward increasing coherence and complexity. Intelligence emerges naturally as part of this process.
And our own intelligence, our technology.
Lilien's philosophy suggests human technological intelligence. Things like quantum computing, AI demonstrates an alignment with these cosmic processes. Our creativity, our ability to build complex systems, is like a fractal echo of the universe's own inherent intelligence. We're participating in that universal mandate for complexity.
Okay, this is where things get potentially very technical, but also crucial. How do we actually describe this hyperdimensional, coherent resonant reality. This is where multilectic metalogic comes in. What makes it so different from the logic and math we usually learn? Why do we even need a new logic?
Right, this framework provides the necessary rigor. The issue is traditional binary logic, simple true or false, just isn't equipped to handle the kind of dynamic, multi-layered, interdependent systems Lilien's philosophy describes.
It's too black and white.
Exactly. Classical logic is great for clear, distinct statements in a static world. But it struggles with ambiguity, with things that are partially true, with emergence, with the continuous spectrum of reality.
So what does multilectic metalogic offer instead?
It's a radical departure. First, instead of binary truth, it uses multi-valued truth. Think of truth not as an on-off switch, but as a dial. A proposition's truth value, Tx, can be anywhere between 0 and 1 Tx, 0, 1.
A percentage of truth.
Sort of, yeah. It represents the coherence of that state or proposition across dimensions. So something isn't just true or false, its truth value reflects its degree of alignment or consistency within the bigger picture. This allows for much more nuance in modeling things that are probabilistic or emergent.
Okay, truth is a spectrum of coherence. What else?
Then there are dynamic interactions. In classical logic, propositions kind of just sit there. In multilectic metalogic, they interact through coherence and resonance, like notes in music creating chords and harmonies.
They affect each other.
Yes, actively. These interactions create emergent truths, new understandings, or states that arise from the interplay itself. It's not just deduction, it's a generative process. This is key for understanding how complex systems evolve and self-organize.
And why metalogic? What does the meta part mean?
It means it operates above traditional logic systems. It can analyze the rules and structures of other logical systems and even its own. Think of it like a logic that can think about logic itself. This meta capability is what allows it to integrate insights from philosophy, physics, math, these different logical domains.
A logic for a dynamic, shades of gray interacting universe. Makes sense you'd need something new. What are its fundamental rules? Its axioms?
The core principles are actually quite elegant but powerful. First, the coherence axiom. This basically says every logical system, every system period, is embedded in a hyperdimensional coherence field. That field determines the system's consistency. An argument's truth depends on its coherence within its context.
Context matters, logically.
Deeply. Second, the resonance axiom. Interactions, logical or physical, aren't random. They're governed by resonance operators. Systems or ideas with similar coherence patterns will resonate more strongly, interact more effectively, leading to emergent coherence, like tuning forks vibrating together.
Okay, interaction depends on matching resonance.
Yes. And third, the vital asymmetry axiom. This states that symmetry breaking within logical structures is what introduces interdependence and complexity. Just like physical asymmetry creates distinct things, logical asymmetry allows nuanced, multifaceted truths to emerge from simpler, undifferentiated ones. It's the creative principle within the logic.
Coherence, resonance, asymmetry, the building blocks. How do the logical operators like and or change in this system?
They get extended for these hyperdimensional interactions. So you have things like coherence operators. They don't just combine propositions. They calculate the combined coherence of interacting truths, maybe represented as OCX, OTOTY, showing how truth values influence each other. Then resonance operators describe how propositions resonate across different fields or frequencies, integrating their interactions. And asymmetry operators quantify that symmetry breaking, showing how potential differences lead to actual distinctions. It allows for a much more fluid, dynamic logic.
It sounds like it could tackle some really deep problems in logic, maybe like Gödel's incompleteness theorems. The idea that formal systems have limits. They can't prove everything true within them. How does multilectic metalogic handle things like that?
That's a fantastic question, and exactly where the metalogic aspect really comes into play. Gödel showed the inherent limits of classical systems. You can't have both completeness and consistency in one powerful system.
Right.
Lilien's approach addresses this by viewing logical systems as consistent within their specific coherence field, their context, but gaining completeness through integration into higher dimensional layers.
Like looking at a 2D map versus understanding the 3D globe it represents.
Exactly. A paradox or an unprovable statement within one layer might resolve perfectly when seen from a higher dimensional perspective, where its underlying resonance patterns or a broader coherence becomes clear. Truth becomes dynamic and context-dependent. Apparent contradictions dissolve into a larger, coherent whole by expanding the frame.
A fundamental shift. Okay, so that's the logic. What about the math underpinning it? How does it describe these coherence fields and hyperfractal dimensions mathematically?
The math provides the precise language. It has several key foundations. Algebraically, propositions aren't just true-false, they're treated as multisets. Think of collections where elements have weighted resonance, like px 1w1 by 2w2. This allows for nuanced combinations, accounting for how strongly different components resonate.
So the algebra includes the resonance.
Yes. Geometrically, it describes how coherence fields spread across those hyperfractal dimensions. There's a hyperfractal metric that measures coherence distance, not just space, but how aligned or resonant things are. And those resonance loci are geometric points of maximum coherence, like stable attractors forming networks within hyperspace.
The stable points in the fractal.
Precisely. Temporally, as we touched on, time isn't linear. It's a multivectorial system, T, T1, T2, T3, T4, T5, including linear, cyclic, quantum, coherence, and resonance axes. This allows the real now to be defined mathematically as the intersection of all these axes, a rich, multi-layered present.
That's a complete view of time.
Very. And finally, it uses differential and integral models, like physics uses calculus for fields. There are coherence field equations using tensors like Kuhn and equations like Nikim-Hai to model how coherence propagates and shapes reality. And resonance integrals calculate the cumulative effects of resonance across these hyperfractal fields.
Wow, okay. That's a lot of sophisticated math. So with this whole logical and mathematical toolkit, how does the philosophy actually derive things? How does it show mathematically how dimensions or forces emerge?
This is the crucial payoff. The framework isn't just descriptive, it's meant to be predictive and generative. It allows for the derivation of emergence, for example, dimensional emergence. It shows how our familiar dimensions arise as specific recursive layers of the hyperfractal, governed by the math. Symmetry breaking. Driven by those asymmetry operators, it's mathematically demonstrated as the mechanism creating distinct particles and forces from the unified vacuum. And force unification. It derives how gravity, electromagnetism, etc. are different facets of the same underlying coherence field, manifesting differently due to symmetry breaking at various layers. The math provides the rigorous pathway from unified potential to diverse actuality.
Okay, this all sounds incredibly deep in theoretical, hyperfractals, metalogic, multi-vector time. Wow. But what can this new understanding actually do? Where does the rubber meet the road? What are the potential practical applications or implications?
Yeah, that's the key question. This is where Lilien's philosophy moves from abstract concepts to offering tools that could have real impact, both theoretically and maybe even practically down the line. So first, in terms of deriving universal structures, it provides a precise mathematical account for how fundamental things emerge. Take dimensional emergence. Our 4D spacetime isn't just assumed, it's derived as these recursive layers of hyperfractal coherence. Dimensions emerge at the intersection of coherence layers governed by those asymmetric resonance operators. Conceptually, you could maybe write our reality, DSAN, as emerging from fractal structures FNX times resonant interactions, or ETX. Our reality is literally built from resonating fractal patterns.
Built from the math, essentially.
In a very real sense, yes. And this extends to force unification. Lilien's provides a mechanism to unify gravity, electromagnetism, the nuclear forces. They're shown as aspects of larger coherence fields. The differences we see, just results of specific symmetry breaking within the hyperfractal layers. They're all expressions of one underlying field. Conceptually, a unified force, funified, might be the sum of coherence field contributions, Sankey. It fundamentally changes how we see forces not separate, but facets of one reality.
Okay, so if forces and dimensions are derived, what about causality? You mentioned hyperdimensional causality. Does this mean traditional A causes B is out? Can effects influence causes? That sounds like time travel paradox stuff.
Not necessarily paradoxes, but it is a complete reimagining. Simple linear cause effect gets replaced by resonance-driven interactions. The notation C cause S effect implies that the relationship is mediated by coherence fields. It's not just billiard balls, it's the coherent state of one system resonating with another to create a new state.
So the field carries the influence.
Exactly, and it introduces recursive causality. This means hyperdimensional feedback loops are possible. Effects can feedback and influence their causes in higher dimensions, creating a much more dynamic web. It's less about changing the past, and more about how present actions, if coherent with future potentials, might attract or make certain outcomes more probable.
Attracting future potentials.
Yeah.
Intriguing. Now, you mentioned something called the coherence engine as being key for applications. What is that, and what could it enable?
The coherence engine is a central concept for harnessing these principles. It's about manipulating coherence fields. For instance, imagine using it for quantum stabilization. One of the biggest hurdles in quantum computing is decoherence qubits losing their quantum state.
Right, they're incredibly fragile.
The coherence engine, theoretically, could sustain quantum field coherence, preventing decoherence even when observed. The equation Q-stable, max, when put are lost near zero, suggests actively maintaining coherence by balancing resonant input and loss. This could be revolutionary for quantum tech.
Maintaining quantum states.
Wow.
Wow, what about energy?
That's another huge potential area. The coherence engine suggests we could potentially extract zero-point energy from the vacuum. In this view, the vacuum isn't empty. It's teeming with hyperdimensional coherence.
Energy from nothing.
Not nothing, energy from the vacuum structure. By manipulating the coherence of the vacuum field, extract X plus F, dBF, energy that's normally inaccessible might be tapped. It points towards a potentially limitless clean energy source, though obviously that's highly speculative technologically.
Mind-blowing potential. Okay, besides quantum computing and maybe zero-point energy, are there other, perhaps more near-term examples of where this could lead?
Well, quantum computing is a big one, as we said. Enabling stable qubits fundamentally changes the game. Then there's cosmology. Lilien proposes these fractal cosmological models. Instead of just the standard Big Bang expansion, it models galaxy and large-scale structure formation through fractal coherence dynamics. The equations cosmic the ANUCN suggests cosmic structure arises from summing fractal and coherence contributions at different scales.
So the universe builds itself like a fractal.
That's the idea. And the model gets much more detailed, including things like scaling coefficients, dimensional embedding dn, resonance modulation, Rn, coherence tensors, Kn, and temporal dynamics, Tn. This detailed framework could potentially explain galaxy formation, the cosmic web, and maybe even shed light on dark matter and dark energy by showing how they interact through these coherence fields. It offers a new lens on the unseen architecture of the cosmos.
A very different picture of the universe's structure. What about communication? You hinted at something faster than light.
Yes, potentially. The theory envisions advanced communication systems using hyperdimensional coherence fields. Information wouldn't travel through space in the normal way, but resonate instantaneously across vast distances via these underlying fields. The communication time Tcom would depend on signal resonance or signal and the hyperfractal layer flare, possibly bypassing light speed limits within our 3D layer. If information is coherent with the deep structure, maybe it's not bound by surface constraints.
Instantaneous communication across galaxies.
Right.
That really borders on sci-fi.
Okay, bringing this back down to earth a bit. What are the broader philosophical takeaways from all these potential applications and derivations? How does it change our fundamental view?
It brings us right back to the philosophical core. First, the observer's role is cemented as absolutely fundamental. Your interaction with coherence fields isn't just a weird quantum quirk. It's constitutive of reality. It powerfully shows the unity of consciousness and physical systems, not separate, but intertwined aspects of the same unfolding.
Mind and matter deeply connected.
Deeply. Second, it reframes causality completely. It's a dynamic interplay of coherence and resonance across dimensions, changing our understanding of time, space, and how everything is related. It's a much more interconnected, responsive universe.
Everything influences everything else through resonance. In a structured way, yes. And finally, intelligence as a universal force becomes literal. It's embedded in the universe's structure. This suggests human creativity, our scientific breakthroughs, our ethical impulses they might align with and participate in, these deeper cosmic principles of intelligence and coherence. We're part of the universe's intelligent self-organization.
That brings us perfectly to the ultimate takeaway, it seems. This concept of the big emergence. It feels like the culmination of everything. What does it truly tell us about the fundamental nature of reality? And what are its biggest implications for how we see the world, our place in it, maybe even the meaning of it all?
This really is where the framework offers its most transformative step. The big emergence is rooted in this idea of the coherent hypergravity vacuum. Imagine this not as empty space, but as the fundamental, vibrant field from which everything emerges, not as separate things, but as dynamic patterns of coherence. It shifts us from a static, fragmented view to one of continuous, dynamic unfolding.
So ontology, the study of being, changes fundamentally. Reality isn't stuff.
Exactly. It challenges static ontology. Reality becomes a dynamic process of coherence interactions. Forces, particles, constants, they aren't fixed building blocks. They emerge as asymmetric resonance reductions of an underlying hypersymmetric whole. The universe is utterly interdependent.
No isolated objects.
None. This resonates strongly with process philosophy Whitehead, for example, where reality is about becoming, not being, and with concepts like Buddhist dependent origination, everything arising in dependence on everything else. Substance gets replaced by encoded instructions within this hypergravity vacuum, dynamically shaping space-time and everything in it. Reality is less about what is and more about how existence unfolds intelligently.
So, if reality is unfolding, what about the beginning? Cosmology. No single Big Bang.
It moves beyond the Big Bang. The origin isn't a singular explosion, but this big emergence, a continuous dynamic unfolding of coherence fields from that vacuum. Space, time, matter emerge progressively, layer by hyperfractal layer. It challenges reductionist cosmology and emphasizes the universe as layered, ongoing emergence.
Continuous creation, almost.
In a sense, yes, and time as an emergent property becomes critical. Time isn't a pre-existing container. It arises from coherence field decay and resonance. Its arrow, why it moves forward, reflects that progressive symmetry reduction. This aligns with relational space-time ideas, time as relationships, not a background.
And space-time itself.
Space-time as a construct. It emerges dynamically from the hyperfractal layers, challenging the classical fabric idea. It's almost Kantian space and time as structures of experience, but grounded in this physical coherence framework.
Okay. And consciousness and the observer. How does the big emergence view finalize their role?
It makes them absolutely central. Consciousness as emergent coherence means it's not just in brains. It arises from the resonance of coherence fields everywhere, an intrinsic aspect of the universe's dynamics. This supports ideas like panpsychism consciousness as a fundamental property, refined in complex systems like ours.
And the observer, still reducing symmetry.
Yes, the observer as symmetry reducer. Your conscious observation actively participates in collapsing the possibilities within the coherence fields into definite reality. Measurement isn't passive detection, it's encoding lower dimensional instructions from higher dimensional coherence. It affirms the deep interdependence of observer and observed, aligning with phenomenology. We are active shapers of reality through our awareness.
Okay, this sounds like order emerging, but not randomly. How does the big emergence explain complexity and order?
It sees the emergence of complexity as natural, not accidental. It arises inevitably from coherence field interactions. Systems self-organize as coherence propagates through the hyperfractal layers. It explains the universe's journey from simplicity to intricate life and consciousness, aligning with complexity theory.
It's built to become complex.
It seems so. And the fine-tuning and purpose aspect, the just right constants, these reflect the inherent negentropy, the tendency towards order of the hypergravity vacuum. It suggests an intrinsic drive towards coherence and complexity. This invites reconsidering teleology of purpose in the universe, not as external design, but as an emergent property of its coherent nature.
Wow. So if everything emerges from this unified dynamic, it reinforces the idea of unity and interconnection.
Absolutely. The universe is a unified whole. All phenomena are just different expressions, localized patterns of the single coherence resonance dynamic arising from those underlying hypersymmetric instructions. It reflects non-dual philosophy's profoundly multiplicity emerging from unity.
And the ethical implications of that deep unity.
They become immense. If everything is interconnected through coherence fields, our actions ripple through the entire structure. Ethical choices aren't just personal or local, they impact the universal coherence. Humanity's role in maintaining and fostering coherence becomes central to sustainability, harmony, well-being at all scales. It aligns with deep ecology, holistic ethics. Our responsibility extends to the fabric of existence itself.
That's a heavy responsibility.
Yeah.
How does this change the nature of knowledge itself, moving beyond reductionism?
Completely. It champions emergent relational dynamics over pure reductionism. Understanding comes not just from dissecting parts, but from seeing the interplay of layers and instructions, how the whole emerges and informs the parts. It resonates with systems thinking, understanding the whole system, not just isolated components.
And it bridges science and metaphysics.
Yes, it provides predictive scientific models while also offering explanations for unity, purpose, the relational nature of reality. It embodies a kind of cosmic monism, integrating the physical how with the metaphysical why into one cohesive worldview.
So finally, what does this all mean for human existence? Where do we fit in this grand, big emergence?
Our role is profound. Humanity's role in coherence means we are integral participants. Our consciousness contributes to symmetry reduction. Our ethical choices, our creativity, our thoughts, they literally shape the coherence of reality's layers. We are co-creators in this ongoing universal unfolding.
Co-creators.
And evolution as a coherence process. Biological and cultural evolution reflect this progressive organization of coherence. It challenges purely random or deterministic views, emphasizing emergent complexity driven by this universal tendency toward order and awareness. We are part of the universe's story of becoming more coherent, more aware.
So after this incredible mind-bending deep dive into Lillien's philosophy, what does this profound reinterpretation of reality really leave you thinking about? What's the core essence you hope, our listener takes away from all this?
Well, I think it fundamentally redefines our understanding of existence, doesn't it? It really compels us to see that forces, constant space-time consciousness, they aren't separate things in boxes. They're deeply interdependent aspects of one dynamic, emergent process.
Everything connected, everything unfolding.
Exactly. It presents this unified vision of reality, but one that tries to ground the metaphysical, the deeply philosophical, in mathematical precision. It paints a picture of an active, maybe even intelligent universe that is continuously unfolding, continuously becoming. The universe isn't just there, it's becoming, and we are intrinsically part of that becoming.
And that's the truly powerful takeaway from this deep dive, isn't it? It shows how ancient wisdom and modern science, maybe, can converge, not just to expand our understanding of the universe, but of consciousness itself, and maybe the infinite potential of human inquiry. It invites us, you, to consider our place not just as observers, but as active participants, maybe even co-creators in this ongoing big emergence of reality. What would it truly mean if our own thoughts, our intentions, our collective actions literally contribute to the coherence of the universe, shaping what emerges next? It's a truly provocative, perhaps empowering thought to take with you.